In Demon Slayer, Tanjiro was one of the strongest characters to be seen by the end of the series, going toe-to-toe with Muzan like any other Hashira. And Urokodaki, the one who taught Tanjiro water breathing, had a huge role to play with. Have you guys ever wondered what would happen if Tanjiro never met Urokodaki and instead had gone through a different path? Do not worry. In today's video, I will be going to discuss exactly that. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more of these types of videos. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. We will be looking at two cases here. Just like in real life, one decision can lead someone to both success and failure. We will be discussing one positive case and one negative, though I think you already know what that negative case could be. So I will do that later in the video to not bore you guys. Let's start with the positive one. Just like in the original series, Tanjiro would leave his home to sell charcoal in the nearby town and would start to depart towards his home. A man named Saburo, noticing the nightfall, would tell Tanjiro to stay at his place and continue his journey the next day. Tanjiro, seeing his kindness, wouldn't refuse and stay there for the night. The next day, when Tanjiro arrives back, he would see everyone in his family slaughtered. After a while of panic, he would notice Nezuko still breathing and would pick her up and rush towards the town to find a doctor to help her. But Nezuko would turn into a demon and attack her. Everything would go just as it went in the original series. Giyu will come save Tanjiro and try to kill Nezuko, but Tanjiro would stop him and thing happen. Giyu then notices that Nezuko still retains some of her memories and is trying to protect Tanjiro. Giyu then knocks out Nezuko and tells Tanjiro that Nezuko will die if she comes under sunlight and tells him to go meet Urokodaki and say that Giyu Tomioka sent him, and leaves. Tanjiro continues his journey with Nezuko to find Urokodaki, but this time they didn't cross paths. While doing that, Tanjiro finds a katana in a rundown house, and decides to take it. Later, he finds a demon, and Tanjiro and Nezuko ends up fighting him until the sunrise. Tanjiro, seeing how weak he was, trough out the battle, and Nezuko, being the one mainly protecting him, decides to train and get stronger. Tanjiro now travels and rigorously practices with his sword, and soon ends up on a mountain. Tanjiro encounters a group of demons and had to fight them. Nezuko also steps in to help them, but they were getting cornered by these demons. That was when somehow Inosuke out of nowhere steps in and helps them defeat the demons. Tanjiro thanks him for the help, but then Inosuke tries to attack Nezuko. Tanjiro stops him and explains him about their condition. Inosuke found it interesting and decides to tag along with them as it sounded fun to him. Inosuke and Tanjiro now train together, boosting Tanjiro's training efficiency. And time passed just like this. Tanjiro didn't learn a breathing style, but he was now way stronger compared to normal demon slayers. After a while, these three encounters a demon slayer who was on a subjugation mission, and got to know about Demon Slayer Corp and everything about demons that he didn't know. Afterwards, Inosuke and Tanjiro helped the demon slayer in his mission, and got to know about demon-slaying weapon and how special such weapons are. Then headed in the direction of Demon Slayer Corp as directed by the demon slayer they just met. On their way, they arrived at the mountain where Rui, Lower Moon 6, was and found many demon slayers dead. Inosuke and Tanjiro, seeing the bodies, instantly knew that it was work of a demon. After respecting them, they equipped themselves with the new demon-slaying katana, went off to help any demon slayers on the mountain. During this, they met Zenitsu and started to work together. Zenitsu, out of fear, fell unconscious and went badass mode, slaying demons easily. Inosuke and Tanjiro were keeping up with him. And with Nezuko also helping them with her blood demon arts, they all easily took care of most of the demons. That was when Rui made his appearance. The battle with Rui went on. Tanjiro and squad were on losing side. But after watching Zenitsu, Tanjiro realized that he was using some special kind of way of breathing to boost his body speed and strength, and remembered how his father performed the Hinokami Kagura dance despite being ill for several hours straight, and said that was with the help of a specific way of breathing, which Tanjiro later learned from him. Tanjiro decided to use the breathing technique to fight, thinking it would be useful in boosting his stamina, even if it wasn't something that Zenitsu was doing, but was shocked at his improved ability in battling the demon. Tanjiro then asked Nezuko to use his blood art on his sword, while also asking Zenitsu and Inosuke to help him get a chance to strike at the demon. Zenitsu and Inosuke, realizing that Tanjiro had a plan, started to distract Rui and create as clear a path as they could for Tanjiro to reach Rui. Zenitsu and Inosuke, realizing that Tanjiro had a plan, started to distract Rui and create as clear a path as they could for Tanjiro to reach Rui. Tanjiro, after a few seconds seeing the best chance, charged forward. Nezuko used her blood art to make a fire on Tanjiro's sword. Tanjiro, with his new speed and strength, along with Nezuko's blood art fire on his sword, easily sliced through the string in his path. Rui noticed Tanjiro and felt the threat that was coming towards him. But before he could do anything, Tanjiro had already swung his sword. And like in an instant, Rui's head went flying, detached from his body. In this what if? Even though Tanjiro didn't train under urokodaki and learn the water-breathing technique, he was able to train in a much rougher way thanks to Inosuke being with him, as we have seen in the original series. In the battle against Upper Moon's 6 siblings, even though Tanjiro had started to learn sun-breathing, Inosuke was able to give Daki just as hard time as Tanjiro did, so his techniques and training style wasn't any inferior if not superior. Tanjiro's body developed at a great speed because of training with Inosuke, thus making him a lot stronger. Let's continue now. After the defeat of Rui, the squad laid on the ground exhausted, resting. Zenitsu said, "We should get going. What if more demons come here? We aren't in a good state right now, we won't be able to fight them," Tanjiro replied. "Don't worry, I don't smell any demon nearby." Inosuke also said, "I checked earlier. That demon we defeated was the last here." Zenitsu replied, "I don't know how you can detect demons, but I think we can rest for a while." While this was going on, Giyu and Shinobu were, and a nearby tree, watching all this. Giyu said, "I told you, just wait and see." Shinobu replied, "Well, I guess I should thank you for stopping me. Otherwise, I would have killed that demon too." This interesting, though. A demon working with humans to defeat another demon. Looks like she is different from other demons, just as you said. "I think we won't need to separate those siblings," Giyu replied. "Good that you understand. For now, let's give them some help. Those kids are quite injured." Giyu and Shinobu reached out to the squad and helped them, not long after, taking them to the Demon Slayer Corp. After arriving there and resting for a while, Shinobu and Giyu went to tell Ubuyashiki about this matter, and he sets up a Hashira meeting. All the other Hashiras were summoned, and Tanjiro, along with Nezuko and Inosuke and Zenitsu, were brought. The Hashiras, after hearing that Nezuko was a demon and wasn't killed, yet tried to attack her. Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu stood in front of the box she was in to protect her, while Giyu grabbed the handle of his sword ready to act if something happened. But before anything could happen, Ubuyashiki stopped them. Ubuyashiki noticed Tanjiro's earrings and deduced that Tanjiro had some connection to the original creator of all breathing techniques, first and the strongest demon slayer to ever live, and decided to bet on it. Ubuyashiki asked Tanjiro about Nezuko, and after learning that she hasn't feisted on humans and was even helping defeating other demons, and to convince other Hashiras, asked Giyu and Shinobu if it was true, with them also vouching. Ubuyashiki ordered the Hashiras to not harm Nezuko, and dismissed Tanjiro and his squad. After that, ordered the Hashiras to train him. The Hashiras, without asking him the reason to do so, complied, and went off with their work. And soon they started their training, after a while of being trained by all the Hashiras for some time. Tanjiro had perfected his basics, and was a lot stronger compared to the original timeline. Tanjiro started to learn more about breathing styles and trained under all the Hashiras and tried to learn the breathing styles from them. But ultimately, Tanjiro decided to learn flame breathing from Rengoku. Since being the closest to sun breathing, it seemed most natural to him out of all the breathing style that he tried to learn under the Hashiras. Not even just learned. He evolved sun breathing and brought it closer to sun breathing. Not perfect, but still the closest anyone had gotten. Knowing the fundamentals and basics of all the breathing styles he tried triggered this development. Tanjiro decided to name it Blaze Breathing. Rengoku, wanting to give Tanjiro some experience with fighting demons, took him on a mission, thus entering the Mugen Train arc. This time around, Tanjiro, much more experienced with a better breathing style and it being close to sun breathing, made it a breeze to slay lower Moon 1 Enmu, but soon Akaza appeared. This time, Tanjiro was of help to Rengoku, and they managed to last till the dawn, forcing Akaza to flee. Rengoku decided to not chase him since everyone was already injured, including him, and continuing to fight would only result in someone's death, thus surviving the incident. After recovering, and few days of training, Tengen decided to take Tanjiro on the mission with him. Rengoku decided to tag along this time. Since this could be a good experience for Tanjiro, Rengoku decided to continue his training along the way. Things went as they were, with Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu doing the same thing they did in the original timeline. While Tengen and Rengoku working together to gather intel, eventually they fought the Upper Moon's 6, Daki and Gyutaro. Tanjiro's battle going the same as it did with Daki. But this time, Gyutaro's presence was triggered by Tanjiro instead of Tengen. Tengen and Rengoku, sensing Gyutaro's presence, rushed to Tanjiro's aid. Tanjiro, still in his rage mode, was fighting them on equal footing, but soon the pressure caught up to him, making him unable to breathe. Gyutaro, frustrated that a kid was fighting them on his own, tried to attack Tanjiro in that moment, before moving further. What do you expect? This time around, Tanjiro has his blaze breathing. I'd say you can compare it to moon breathing strength. Just like moon breathing, it wasn't as strong as sun breathing, but was far stronger than any other. You can say if sun breathing is SS tier, then moon breathing is S tier. And blaze breathing will also fall in this S tier. And Tanjiro, having a lot of experience with this breathing style, and with all his senses and strength enhanced, was able to hold his own against the demon siblings. Now back to the video. Rengoku and Tengen reached just in time to save Tanjiro. Both Hashiras commended him for holding his own against the Upper Moons and told him to rest and that they would take care of it. Tanjiro finally took a breath of relief, and not long after the demon sibling were defeated. But something changed. Tanjiro realized that his blaze breathing wasn't perfect. He felt as if it could be evolved and asked Rengoku about it. Rengoku, knowing about the history from his ancestors' record, mentioned Tanjiro's earrings and told him about the sun breathing. Tanjiro remembered his father's words and the Hinokami Kagura his father did and started his new training. His sword, which was already damaged from the battle, broke amidst his training with Rengoku. Rengoku advised him to go to the swordsmith village and get a new sword made for him. In the meantime, Rengoku went with Sanemi and Obanai on a mission. From here, the events were the same as before. Tanjiro already progressed a lot in reaching the sun breathing and was already able to perform most of its moves due to the training he did with Rengoku. And while training with the doll of Yorichi, he finally achieved it by observing the doll itself and learning its moves and fighting it countless times. This time, Tanjiro was much stronger. Him having the experience with blaze breathing made sun breathing much easier to use. Without putting any strain on his body, his overall speed, strength, and reflexes were also far better. The story continued like it did in the original timeline. Muichiro, Mitsuri, and the group defeated the Upper Moons together. Tanjiro awakened his Demon Slayer mark this time against the battle with the Upper Moon 4, triggering the Hashiras to also have the awakening. This time Nezuko didn't had to go in sun as the battle ended even before dawn could break. Meanwhile, Rengoku, along with Sanemi and Obanai, discovered the Infinte Castle, and they figured out where the main base of demons was. This information was told to the other Hashiras and the head, and the Tanjiro group. Eventually deciding to finally end this battle against demons, they made a plan to attack their base. Tanjiro and the group entered an intense train arc under the Hashiras, much harder compared to the original timeline, even requiring them to battle all the Hashiras one by one until they were exhausted. The Hashiras also sparred with each other to help each other train, and eventually planned their attack on Muzan. One more thing. This time, Shinobu was the one who made the drug to defeat Muzan and cure Nezuko. It sure did take long, but she succeeded. Obanai and Sanemi somehow located the area Muzan was in, and all the Hashiras, including the Tanjiro squad, arrived there. Tanjiro, using his sense of smell, located Muzan, and they commenced their attack, surrounding Muzan from all sides. Muzan was confused how they found out about his location, but then smirked. Nakime used her blood art to capture all the warriors inside the Infinite Castle. Muzan told them that he would meet them later. All of them got separated. This time, Zenitsu defeats Kaigaku easily. Another difference. Rengoku was with Shinobu, and fights Doma along with her, and they were later joined by Inosuke and Kanao, ending Doma's life easily. The battle with Kokushibo went just as it originally did, with the only exception being Tengen also present there to help. Meanwhile, the battle against Akaza was a little different, since Tanjiro was much stronger. Giyu and Tanjiro were able to easily hold their own, and soon Tanjiro also acquired selfless state, slashing off Akaza's head. But Akaza didn't die and slowly started to recover his head, but Tanjiro didn't stop. He started performing the 13th form of sun breathing, slashing Akaza into pieces, killing him completely. Giyu and Tanjiro only received minor injuries. Meanwhile, while all these battles were going on, Zenitsu realized that a demon was changing the castle using her blood demon art, and after he defeated Kaigaku, he went off to find her, and with his speed it didn't take him much time, also defeating dozens of demons on his way. Zenitsu sees Matsuri and Obanai fighting Nakime, and at the right moment goes on to launch a surprise attack. Swiftly getting rid of her, Obanai and Matsuri thanks him for the help, and the final battle begins. This time, Gyomei, Sanemi, Tokito, and Genya just barely survived against Kokushibo because of the help of Tengen. With all of them together, the battle against Muzan starts. All of them launch an attack, but Muzan transforms into his final form and defends himself. Deciding to retreat, all the Hashiras were on the defense. Tanjiro, still being in his selfless mode, starts to slash all of Muzan's tentacles, soon coming close enough to Muzan to attack his main body. Hashira, seeing this opportunity, try to attack Muzan, but he regenerates his tentacles to keep them away. While trying his best to stop Tanjiro, Muzan already saw how Tanjiro was moving and knew that he was using the same technique as Yoriichi did. Rengoku, Tengen, and Zenitsu, seeing Muzan distracted, swiftly decapitates all his tentacles. All the other Hashiras then sync their attack with Tanjiro. Tanjiro, taking the advantage, slashes Muzan with his 13th form, while all the others attacked Muzan as soon as Tanjiro finished first round of his 13th form, with Matsuri, Giyu, Sanemi, and Obanai slashing Muzan in just one brief moment, and Gyomei crushing his leftover flesh with his attack to avoid any chance of him regenerating from anywhere, thus ending Muzan's life. Yeah, so this was quite easy. Rengoku survived, and with his survival, Tengen was almost in perfect condition, which later helped in the main battle. So even if Tanjiro wasn't just as strong as how I got him in this what if, it would have turned out good anyway. Well, with how much impact Rengoku had, it seems like this turned out more like what if Rengoku survived. No wonder the author killed him in the original story. Anyway, let's move to the negative case. Here everything would go just as it did. But Tanjiro won't meet Inosuke, which was one of the main reasons to make him strong enough to make him survive against Rui. Not meeting him would just leave him to train just as he could alone. Inosuke helped him with rigorous strength and speed training in mountains, similar to the ones he does, which resulted him in being the strong Inosuke we know from the original time, and with a partner it also boosted his training efficiency. Not meeting him would just lead to a weaker Tanjiro. Inosuke not present on the mountain where Rui was, and ultimately the demise of Tanjiro. And not just that, even Zenitsu would fall. Before any help could arrive, he would have been attacked by other minions that Rui had, since there was no Inosuke, and Tanjiro was dead. And at last, Nezuko dying by the hands of Shinobu. Well, that went dark and ended pretty fast. Anyway, this was all for today's video. As usual, if you like watching the video, hit the like button, and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Have fun, fellas.